Hello everyone. Welcome back to English with Apurva. Today, I will tell you a very beautiful and meaningful story. This story teaches us courage, hope, and the power of trying again and again. So listen till the end. You will love it. In a quiet American town, tucked between forests of tall pine trees and the slow gossip of the morning birds, there stood a mountain that made absolutely no sense to anyone with a working brain. The whole thing was made of glass, not rock with glass on the top, not shiny quartz pretending to be fancy. No, it was a giant, solid, shimmering, see your own face too clearly kind of glass. When sunlight hit it, the mountain didn't just sparkle, it glared. It shone so brightly that people had to squint, shade their eyes, or complain dramatically about optical harassment. From far away, the whole mountain looked like someone had taken a giant mirror, tilted it up, and told it to pretend to be the natural landmark. People in the town often wandered up to it just to stare at themselves on the glistering surface. Some admitted their hair, some checked for wrinkles, some pretended to study the geology, even though the only rocks involved were the pebbles under their feet. But as shiny and as impressive it was, nobody could climb it. Every single inch of the glass mountain was slippery. Ridiculously slippery, as if the entire thing was permanently coated in the layer of soap. People joked that you could butter bread on that slope. A few brave souls tried climbing it over years, but the attempts usually ended with slipping, sliding, and enough bruises to start a small art gallery. At the very top of the glassy peak grew a small golden tree. It wasn't tall, maybe the height of the child, and on that tree hung a single golden apple that glowed even without sunlight. Legend said that anyone who touched the apple would gain wisdom, peace, and more luck than a lottery winner with 4-level clover for breakfast. But legends are easy. Climbing glass was not. People had tried. People had failed. People had made dramatic speeches about never giving up and then gave up 5 minutes later. Eventually, the town's flock decided the mountain wasn't just difficult, it was impossible. And so, for many years, the glass mountain stood quietly, untouched, mocking everyone with its sparkly smugness. In that same town lived a young man named Ethan. He was sort of person everyone liked without having a reason. He helped old flocks carry groceries, helped children chase their runaway kites, and helped his mother at home because she pretended not to need help but absolutely did. His family wasn't rich, but they had warmth. They had decency. They also had a house with a very convenient window that looked directly at the glass mountain. Every night before sleeping, Ethan found himself staring at the mountain, not because it was shiny, not because he wanted fame or fortune. Something deeper tugged at him quietly, like a mystery wrapped in a feeling, wrapped in a very stubbornness sense of curiosity. One evening, after staring at the mountain long enough to make the window fog from his breath, Ethan finally said, "I am going to climb it." His mother looked at him like he had just announced he was moving to the moon. "Many have tried, Ethan," she said gently. "Many have failed." "I know," he replied softly. "But something inside me says I have to try." Mothers are expert at saying nothing while saying everything. She didn't argue. She didn't encourage foolishness either. She only placed a hand on his cheek and said, "Be careful." Before sunrise the next morning, Ethan slipped out of the house with a small bag containing a bit of bread, a flask of water, and a heart full of determination that really should have been packed in the bubble wrap. The mountain sparkled with early light, turning pink, golden, and silver all at once. Ethan placed his hand on the smooth surface. It felt like cold, like touching winter. He took a deep breath. Let's begin. His first step lasted about half a second before he slid backward like a poorly executed dance move. The second attempt was slightly better. He lasted a full second before gravity reminded him who was the boss. By the 10th time, Ethan was panting. The glass had already bitten little cuts in his palms. His legs burned as if he had offended them personally. But Ethan did not stop. He tried again and again and again. He fell so many times that even the dust felt embarrassed for him. But every time he fell, he got back up. People in the town began to notice the strange figure repeatedly sliding and scrambling on the mountain. They gathered nearby, forming a crowd of curious eyes and louder opinions. Some laughed. Some said Ethan has lost his mind. Some placed bets. Some crossed their arms, waited for him to give up, because humans love being right about other people's failure. But Ethan didn't hear their voices. He didn't care who was watching. He focused only on one thought, one more step. Hours passed. Ethan reached the middle of the mountain, something nobody has done in decades. The ground below looked frighteningly far. The wind whistled cold warning in his ears. For a moment, his courage wavered. His muscles trembled. His breath became sharp, shaky. He thought of climbing mountain down. He thought of letting go. He thought maybe this is enough. Then he remembered something his mother always said. When everyone tells you to quit, listen to the voice inside instead. So he pushed forward. The sun shifted. The mountain warmed. Ethan felt hunger biting his stomach, thirst scratching his throat. He whispered to himself, one more step, just one more step. Glass cut his palms again, the wind slapping his face, but Ethan kept climbing. He spoke to himself the way someone talks to a tired horse, gentle, stubborn, and full of impossible belief. His body ached, but he didn't stop. Hours later, when most of the crowd had either gone bored or had to go home to feed their chickens, Ethan finally reached the top. He didn't cheer. He didn't raise his arms. He simply collapsed like someone whose entire body had decided to take a break without asking for permission. He lay there, breathing hard, staring at the sky that suddenly looked much bigger from up there. When he stood, he walked towards the golden tree. The apple glowed softly, like it knew he was coming. When Ethan touched it, he didn't feel lightning. He didn't hear angels. No dramatic music played. Instead, he felt calm. Deep, warm, steady calm. The kind of peace that didn't come from magic, but from the realization something was true. The value wasn't in the apple, it was in the trying, the climbing, the courage, the stubbornness to rise after every fall. Down below, the town people stared up in the stunned silence. Ethan was standing at the top of the impossible mountain, golden apple in the hand. For the first time, the mountain didn't look unbeatable. Ethan had made it human again. Ethan began long climbing down the glass mountain. And if anyone thought climbing down would be easier, they were wrong in the same way people are wrong when they microwave metal. The surface was still as slippery as ever, and the golden apple in Ethan's hand felt heavier than it looked. Not heavy like a metal, but heavy like a responsibility. He moved slowly and carefully, placing his feet with the precision of someone balancing on soap coated glass, because he literally was. The crowd began below, held their breath every time he wobbled. A few people stretched out their arms as if they could reach and catch him from 70 feet away, which was adorable but useless. Even the mountain seemed to hum quietly, as if whispering, "Try anything stupid and I'll throw you." But Ethan didn't slip, not once. Later, people claimed the mountain allowed him to descend safely. Others said the golden apple protected him. Others insisted it was luck. Ethan's version was different. When someone asked him years later how he climbed down without falling, he simply said, "I was tired, too tired to sleep." When his feet finally touched the solid ground, the entire crowd fell silent. The laughter was gone. The doubts were gone. The town stared at Ethan with the same expression people use when they see a miracle or a math problem they suddenly understand. A small boy walked up to Ethan, eyes wide, voice trembling with honest curiosity. "How did you do it?" he asked. Ethan didn't give a long speech. He didn't talk about destiny or courage or mountains, whispering ancient secrets. He just smiled, held the golden apple loosely, and said, "I climbed one step at a time. When I slipped, I tried again. That's all." The boy nodded slowly, but the adults behind him flinched. They recognized the truth in his words. Something inside their chest felt poked, a little uncomfortable, a little inspired, because deep down, everyone knew Ethan wasn't special. He wasn't a warrior, a scholar, or someone with magical climbing boots. He was just a person who refused to stay down once he fell. That made them question all things they had given up on. Dreams left behind, plans abandoned, hopes postponed until someday, a day that never came. Ethan walked home without saying much. The golden apple glowed softly in his hand, but for the first time, he didn't even look at it. He wasn't thinking about the legend or the power or glory. He was thinking about the warm soup, soft blankets, and the vague fear that if he sat down too fast, he will never get up again. His mother was waiting at the door. She didn't gasp. She didn't faint dramatically. She didn't shout with pride. She just looked at her son, saw the cuts in his hand, the tiredness in his eyes, the quiet triumph in his posture, and pulled him into a hug. "You made it," she whispered in his shoulder. "I did," Ethan said softly. He placed the golden apple on the wooden table. It looked strangely ordinary in a small, simple kitchen. His mother touched it gently, then set hands on the Ethan's cheek. "This apple is beautiful," she said, "but the courage in your heart is worth much more." Ethan didn't respond. He didn't need it to. Some truth don't need words. They just sit in the room and fill it up like sunlight. Word spread quickly. The next morning, the town was buzzing like a hive shaken by good news. People gathered in small groups pointing at the mountain, whispering to each other, arguing about what Ethan's climb meant. For the first time in the years, the glass mountain wasn't a symbol of failure. It was a challenge, an invitation. And as humans often do, a few people immediately announced they would climb it next, loudly, dramatically. With speeches so long the birds got bored and flew away. This first volunteer, a man named Douglas, marched towards the mountain wearing heavy boots, leather gloves, an expression that said he believed he was better than any physics. He took one step, slipped so fast he made of the sound oof, and slid back down so elegantly it looked choreographed. The crowd tried not to laugh. They failed. The second volunteer was a woman named Tara who had watched Ethan closely the day before. She didn't wear special gear. She didn't pose heroically. She just stood at the base of the mountain, took a deep breath, and whispered to herself, one step at a time. She slipped just as much as Ethan did. She fell, got up, fell again, got up again, fell again, got up again, and kept going. After a few hours, she reached halfway before her legs gave out and she climbed back down. She didn't get the apple, but the town cheered for her anyway. Something had changed for everyone. Over the next weeks, dozens of people tried climbing the mountain. Some reached halfway, some reached quarter, some made no progress at all but still touched the glass and smiled because trying felt better than giving up before starting. No one else reached the top. Not right away. That didn't matter. The mountain was no longer a symbol of impossible. It had become a mirror. It showed people their fear, their excuses, their doubts, and then asked a simple question. Do you want to keep believing this or do you want to climb? And so, the story teaches us the important truth. You don't need special powers to achieve something. You only need courage, patience, and the willingness to try again after every fall. This is the magic. This is the real golden apple. So friends, this was today's story on English with Apurva. Very simple words, very deep meaning. If you liked it, make sure to like the video and subscribe the channel for learning English easy. Thank you for listening. Bye for now. We will meet in the next video with a new story.